Hey guys, it's been a while since my last video, and in part that's because I've been preparing for the event I'm currently at. What event is that? Well, it's something called CampZone, and I've been doing it for the last 17 years. And what is CampZone? Well, I'll show you some footage in a little bit. But to best explain it, it's a tech carnival campsite festival LAN party. Outdoor for 11 days. This video will be kind of a technical behind the scenes look of what it takes to run basically CampZone. Let's first start with some clips of what CampZone is and what goes on in it. This is the 17th year we've been organizing CampZone, and on average we have about 1,200 people on site all the time. Mostly during weekends that raises a little bit to 1,500, but as I said, on average we're around 1,200 visitors. So CampZone is quite a big event to organize, and we rely on about 100 volunteers to help organize this event. One of the teams I'd like to highlight are the field admins. CampZone itself is divided into 6 different zones. One of those is the organization and activity zone, and the other are our visitor fields. Now, to help manage those visitor fields, we appoint a field admin group which consists of 5 people to each field, and they manage their field locally. So they deal with placement of caravans, tents, campers, and stuff like that. They have all the network equipment, which we'll take a look at in a little bit, so people can plug in their gigabit cord and get network to their tent. They manage power distribution and stuff like that, and anything that goes on their part of the field basically. And if they can't figure it out, they basically come to us and we'll figure it out together. Over the years, some field admins have become quite popular. Take CBG, for instance. Their name stands for Clan Batyas, which literally translates to clan bathrobe. But they're a great group of people, and they've been field adminning on CampZone for the past 10 years. So a lot of people who know them want to join the same field. So when you arrive at CampZone, you can choose your own field to pitch your tent or caravan or whatever. And we do a special, we have 2 openings. We have our, well, it's not really secret, but we have our nighttime opening. So at 12 o'clock at night or 001 in the morning, we open the doors and about 400 to 500 people will be there. Most often in the pouring rain, in pitch dark. Well, we have lights, but it's freezing cold, and they start pitching up their tent because they really can't arrive early enough. We have some people who join the queue to enter the event 2 days before the event even starts. So, but it's all great fun, and they take their preferred spot at their preferred field admin, and others don't care. And that way the campsite basically builds itself. So, let's talk power. Our event uses a lot more power than a normal campsite or festival, because, well, everyone brings everything they have except for the kitchen sink almost. They bring 3 monitors, a high-powered gaming PC, they need to charge their laptops and devices, they have a fridge, they have some lighting, they have some cooking utensils, all kinds of crap they bring, and it all needs power. So what do? We have a unique parallel setup of 3 250 kVA diesel generators, and those provide the power for the whole event. We use high amperage cables which run all through the field everywhere to distribute all the power, and as I mentioned before, the field admins are in charge of distributing the groups locally on the field and if a breaker trips and stuff like that. So on average, as you can see in our graphs, we use about 200 kilowatt hours of kilowatt of power at any given moment. And there are some peaks and there are some lows. And as you can see in the graph, if you watch carefully, we ran on 2 generators most of the time. But one developed an issue, so we had to start the 3rd one. And we have a little headroom to pick up dips or any problems with the generators to keep continuous power. I'm not sure this year because we're using a little bit different generator setup, but on average we use about 20 to 30,000 liters of diesel to power the event. To accommodate all visitors, we also have lots of facilities. For instance, we have a food plaza which has some food trucks where people can buy pre-made food. Or what a lot of larger groups and clans do, they go to the supermarket themselves, they barbecue some stuff, and they cook all kinds of foods here, whatever they want. It's all fine. We have our main, well, I was going to say main tent, but we changed from field last year, so now it's a barn. So we have our main barn. And there we have some concerts, we have some DJs, we have some acts. We have all kinds of activities like cosplay and cosplay costume making, tinkering, soldering workshops, other lectures and stuff like that. A lot of stuff to keep you entertained. And we also have a lot of outdoor activities, depending on the weather, but we try to keep everyone entertained on the field. So what makes CampZone different than any other camping? Well, we also have a gigabit network for all our visitors. So in technical terms, we have an internet feed of 2 times 1 gigabit, but using EcoPath POSC routing to a router in NICAP, we have an effective 2 gigabits of internet bandwidth and the public IP for all our visitors. So on field, we have the 6 fields I mentioned, and between those fields we have our concept which we call a ring star. What that means is basically physically it's a ring because it's one cable or one set of cables running through the field, but because these are multi-core single node fibers and each field splits off some fibers, we have a ring to which we can feed each part of the field from both ways. So we feed 10 gigabit links, so each of the 5 or rather 6 fields are uplinked with their own 20 gigabit in a star topology. Hope that makes sense. I'll try and draw and video magic it, but basically that means we have about 100 gigabits of throughput capacity distributed over the whole field. And well, let's take a look at the network headquarters where all the equipment is housed to see how that looks. Editing Quindo here. Some footage got lost after shooting this, so to start off the rack we see a dual Aruba wireless controller which controls all access points on the field. Next up in the rack we have our dual setup of the PA5060 Palo Alto firewall. As I mentioned before, every visitor gets their own public IP, so we don't really do much in the form of blocking or NAT or anything like that, but we do protect our visitors. So these firewalls are capable of multiple 10 gigabits and stuff like that, but we have a 2 gigabit internet connection, but what it does enable us is to use a lot of features to protect our visitors, as I mentioned. So all ports below 1024 are blocked incoming, but outgoing, anything goes. And we basically only use the Palo Alto to scan the traffic for known viruses, trojans, vulnerabilities and stuff like that, and well, try and protect our visitors. Below the Palo Alto firewalls, you see our two Juniper EX9204 chassis, which are running in an MC lag configuration. Each of the cores receives one of the fields, which travels one side of the ring to each of the fields, forming the 20 gigabit connection. These chassis do both our switching and our routing, so we have divided all the fields into their own subnets, of which the EX9204s do their routing. On the fields themselves, we have a virtual chassis setup, but I'll highlight that in a bit. As I mentioned, all the 10 gigabit connections come in here, and the two chassis are linked together using 80 gigabits to make sure there's absolutely no bandwidth restrictions whatsoever on the field. Continuing in the rack, we see some servers and some storage. Mainly these are our VMware servers to run our services. We run info blocks for DHCP and DNS, also in a clustered mode. And we run some basic services, some game servers, and as mentioned, our caching server. So as I mentioned, we have the ring running around the field. And if you look at this aerial photograph closely, you'll be able to see the fiber spanning the whole field. The fiber ends at a field admin tower and then goes into their tent. And as you can see here, we have a stack of 3 Juniper EX3300s, which are linked together using 10 gigabit DAC cables and form a virtual chassis. So basically it doesn't really matter where you plug in, and the chassis is fed from the top and the bottom switch to prevent any downtime issues, or not really prevent any downtime issues, but try and give you the highest uptime possible. As you can see, both field admins have a different setup and their own way of distributing the cables, and well, basically, since we're using a Juniper virtual chassis, there isn't really a wrong way to do it, so it all works out fine, and our visitors have a dedicated gigabit per person if they want. But most often, groups of like 4 or 5 people take an 8-port switch along, use 1 gigabit cable, and then divide it further in their tent. Some larger groups actually bring their own switch, which are sometimes 10 gigabit capable, and we do allow them to span their own fiber and get a 10 gigabit connection to further expand our network. One of the things I'd like to highlight is our pixel flood server. This server is basically a sort of dumping ground for a ASCII protocol, and it's a very inefficient way of sending pixel data over the network. So we have it connected to the network using a dedicated 10 gigabit card, and on average it's pulling about 4 gigabits of traffic. Pixel flood itself is, as I mentioned, a protocol. I guess I wouldn't really call it that because it's very inefficient. But basically it's a programming bandwidth challenge where you can send pixels to a screen, and we hook up a giant LED screen hanging from one of our central towers, to which you can basically spam your pixels. And of course, when several hundred people on the field are doing that at the same time, it's all about programming efficiency and bandwidth you can generate with a lot of people or a lot of computers or whatever to try and win the screen. So that's been a lot of fun. And well, in a quick overview, that's the technical setup behind CampZone. With power, network, internet, and all the facilities we provide, our visitors have basically a great vacation. Normally they game on their own at home with their headset, just like we do, but we try to provide a space where they can come together with a whole group and have a great vacation. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll end the video with some more shots of activities and night shots and stuff at CampZone. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully like and share this video and send it to your friends and see if they knew about it, and maybe, hopefully, we'll see you next year. So, signing off, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Seeing all the reasons we should forget about this place, but I don't wanna leave here if you're just gonna stay. Changing like the seasons, been wasting all this time. Should be like satellites cast beyond the sky. Believe our fate for another day. Riding these horizons, we'll find our way. We'll leave our fate and fade into the night. Just follow me to paradise. Just say we try. Say the word and we can run around the earth and around the sun. Say the word and we can stay. Forget about that third race. And I know you're healing, 'cause I know the feeling. The streets stop breathing. I don't wanna let you. Around the earth and around the sun. Say the word and we can stay. Say the word.